So it's 6:05 and you're all welcome to today's edition of Lawyer's Diary. Today's topic promises to be very interesting for various reasons. One, because of the topic we'll be discussing being human rights, diversity, and inclusion. We all know recently there was an appeal filed by Achimota School contesting the decision of the High Court and permitting the Rastafarians to be included in their school curriculum. The second reason is because of the person we will be speaking with, Emmanuel Kofi Owusu. I've known Emmanuel Kofi Owusu for over 12 years. I first met him in 2007, a young boy in the lands of Care University with a zeal to become a lawyer. He's grown. He's now an acting registrar of the Alberta Human Rights Tribunal. He's a big man. But between myself and Kofi, Kofi is still my colleague. We have so many history together, and I'm sure today's discussion will unveil them. The next person is also Director Craig, somebody that I've worked in recent times, and I also really admire, cherish his opinion when it comes to these matters. And we have another co-host who also works with the Attorney General of Ghana, Amma Asare. So today's topic is on so many issues. So let me just give a brief background. We all know that constitutionally, under our 1992 Constitution, there are certain rights which we deemed as inalienable. I mean, once you are born, there are some rights to education, rights to freedom of religion. Regardless of your race, origin, political opinion, you are entitled to these rights as a matter of right. Immediately you are born, it comes with it. But we also know that these rights are not absolute. There are some restrictions to the enjoyment of these rights. Sometimes public policy and also public interest may be a bar to your enjoyment of these rights. Some people have said that where your right ends, that is where somebody's rights also start. And so, Kofi Owusu, welcome to the Lawyer's Diary.
Thank you very much.
And I'm looking forward to a very engaging discussion. And one key word about the Lawyer's Diary is that about 98% of our audience are non-lawyers. So we'll plead that your diction, your choice of words, your explanations will be to the elementary level as possible, so everyone gets to understand what you are saying. Amma Asare, Amma, welcome to the Lawyer's Diary. Hello, Amma.
Thank you. I'm here. I had to unmute myself. Thank you so
much. Okay, well, welcome to the Lawyer's Diary, and I'm too grateful to have you here. Director Craig. Director, welcome to the Lawyer's Diary. Hello, Craig, can you hear us?
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
Okay. So, Craig, many thanks for making the time to join us today. Let me start with Kofi. Kofi, I'm a layman. I've heard about human rights. Just take me through it. When we say human rights, what are all human rights?
Okay.
In the most elementary that anybody can understand, what is human rights?
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. I want to say this is a laudable program. The public education that we're providing, it's very good. Definitely, as lawyers, you always have to issue a disclaimer. Everything you say is not legal advice; it's legal information. You cannot rely on it for legal advice. If you want legal advice, consult a lawyer. Pay consultation fees and speak with a lawyer. And also it's great to be on with Amma, who works for the AG's department. So some of my comments later in the day might take a little bit of a dig at the AG, but please bear with me and don't go harsh on me, and Director Care as well. So basically, when we speak, and one more thing too, because I understand that there are a lot of non-lawyers on here, I'm going to try as much as possible not to be very legalistic and use everyday examples that will make it easy for everybody to understand. That will make it easy for that will make it easy for everybody to understand. The goal is that the law has to be broken down into the lay person's language. So basically, when we say human rights, it's basically simple. The rights that are inherent to you as a human, because of your existence, from your birth to your death, because of your existence as a human being. The mere fact that you're a human being, these are rights that that you have. So the right to life, you have a right to life, right? You have a right to life. Nobody can just get up and kill you. If somebody gets up and just kills you, then that person has interfered with your inherent right to live, right? These are rights that come to you because of your existence, because of the fact that you're a human being, right? So once these rights are violated, the state or whichever regulatory agency is in charge should take a very serious look at it, because you're essentially violating the dignity of the human being, or the dignity of the person, right? That being said, these rights, if you check the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is basically where all these rights kind of emanate from. And for those of you who are interested in history, it also originates from what we call the Magna Carta from the UK. So if you check the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it gives you a list of some of these rights which it thinks they are inherent to you. Because you're a human being, you should have these things. They are essentially the right to life, liberty, and security of your person. And to break it down simply, that means you as a person, you are an autonomous person. You're on your own. Your own boss. You have the right to make decisions concerning your body. The state doesn't have the right. Nobody has a right to, for example, force certain medical treatments on you if you do not agree. That's why when you go to the hospital and the doctors want to do a procedure on you, they are supposed to get your consent. They can't just whisk you in if you are alive, thinking clear, and can understand. They are not just supposed to take you into the theater and then just do an operation on you without explaining what they are going to do and getting your consent to you. That has to deal with your right to life, liberty, and freedom of security of your person. We also have what we call the right to liberty, the right to freedom of thought and conscience. And that has to do with your ability to think and express those things, formulate ideas with your thoughts and express them well. And as Osei said in the beginning, all of these rights, even though they are right and they are inherent in us, they are not absolute. What they mean, what that means is that they are not free reign. It doesn't mean that you have it in perpetuity or you have it forever. It means that the state, by law or public policy or in the interest of the public, can put some limitations on it, right? So let's say the right to life. The right to life is guaranteed. However, in some cases, in some countries, if you kill a person, if you commit murder, there is the state can be justified, right? The state can be justified to sentence you to death, and that is a limitation on your right to life because of certain action that you took, right? Freedom of expression, to freely express yourself. You have a right to express yourself, to say whatever you want to say, to conceive anything that you want to conceive in your thought and express it. But in some countries or in some places, there are regulations on hate speech. And to use as an example, if you remember Rwanda, what happened with the Tutsi, the Hutu and the Tutsis genocide, right? Some of these were hate speeches because some people were saying that some people should be eradicated or killed because of the race that they belong to or because of the ethnic tribe that they belong to. That is hate speech. And in some countries, there are laws banning hate speech. And so these are justifiable limits on those rights, right? So I think I'll just stop over here unless you want me to just continue and go forward.
Okay, I thank you very much for such an insight into the whole concept of human rights. Now back to Amma. Amma, I know that in the preamble, I said there are some restrictions on the enjoyment of human rights. From your experience, in terms of public policy, in terms of says the security of the state, what is your opinion on these two things, enjoyment of human rights as against public policy restrictions? Does it then mean that for the sake of national good, if I decide to do things which I feel that I'm entitled to, the state can in one way or the other restrict me from doing so? Is that not also an impediment on my enjoyment of the said human rights? I don't know if Amma would want to take it.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Hello, Amma, can you hear me?
Yes, can you repeat that again?
Okay, so my question is on the restrictions that comes with human rights, especially public policy and then public safety, among other things. Do you think that the state in ensuring or using, the state can use public policy to restrict the enjoyment of human rights? Because ideally, if you say human rights are things that I get to enjoy by the mere fact that I'm human, why would the state want to restrict my enjoyment on some policies?
Well, like, if I sometimes there are restrictions.
Hello, Amma, I can hardly hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so yes, I mean the Constitution places some restrictions on the enjoyment of rights under certain circumstances. If you would catch your mind back when outbreak of COVID, still can't hear me. I can't hear you.
I'm struggling to hear you. Kofi, can you hear?
She's breaking a little bit.
Yes. Hello, Amma. Hello, can you hear me?
Earpiece out to see if you can hear me. Is it better now?
I can hear you better. Yeah, it's better.
Okay. So I was saying earlier that the Constitution does, to some extent, place limitation on the enjoyment of rights, and where this can be done, it's specifically stated, and in the interest of public safety, for instance, the Constitution gives the president the right to pass laws that places restrictions. So you would take, for instance, during the outbreak of the COVID, when there was the lockdown, there was certain restrictions that were placed on the right of movement, and some, I mean, your travel restrictions and all of those things. There was that argument that these circumstances places restrictions on our rights, but of course, the Constitution gave the president the power to place restrictions on the enjoyment of certain rights in emergency situation. So yes, I mean, the enjoyment of rights is not absolute. In certain circumstances, there might be restrictions placed on the enjoyment of these rights and freedoms. And those are some of the circumstances, as I have stated, where in the public interest, there'll be the need for certain laws to be passed to create restrictions so that there wouldn't be an outbreak. For instance, to control the outbreak of COVID, for instance, there were restrictions that was placed on the right of movement and all of those things. So yes.
Okay, so is it the case that, so then you are confirming that regardless of your enjoyment of human rights, the state is also mandated for the sake of maybe public policy or public safety to bring out these laws for the protection of its people? Hello, Amma.
Yes, please, yes.
Okay. Now, Kofi, you mentioned something. You said that on medical grounds, No, but maybe I didn't hear you well. Nobody can say that they won't allow themselves to undergo through certain medical. Hello, Kofi. I said you mentioned something about medical freedom, where because of maybe your religious affiliation, you can choose not to undertake certain medical things. But in the Constitution, I know that the law also do not allow people to do that. So how do we juxtapose the two?
Okay, so thank you very much. Now, the problem with, and this speaks to the larger issue or the larger challenge with human rights in general, that when we talk about protecting or ensuring human rights, we are not only talking about one person's rights. So the state is responsible for ensuring that the rights of everybody is protected. So you definitely find yourself in a situation whereby there is a conflict of rights, right? So, for example, my right to life, liberty, and security of my person may infringe or may conflict with another person's right to life as well. Now, in the example that you cited, and to clarify, what I said with regards to the medical situation was that everybody has a right to life, liberty, and security of their persons, right? So I said that generally speaking, you cannot be forced. When we talk about security of the person, we are talking about body autonomy. You have control over your body. It is your body, so you should have the right to make decisions concerning your body, right? So with medical treatment, the example that I cited for medical treatment, what I said was that generally speaking, a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a medical officer cannot force medical treatment on you if you do not agree to it, right? And the reason is that you have body autonomy, you have control over your body. So you should be the one who can determine what treatment you want to undergo. Now, certainly you can listen to doctor's advice, you can choose not to listen to doctor's advice. But still, in that case, the final decision boils down to you, especially if you are lucid. That means you are mentally aware, you are mentally present, and you have the ability to make decisions, right? And where we see this conflict always arising is a case for those who are Jehovah's Witnesses, right? They do not, I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of them have the understanding that based on their religious beliefs, a fundamental teaching of their religious belief or a practice or a manifestation of their religion is for them not to accept blood. So if, for example, a member of that faith is involved in an accident and they need blood transfusion and they are taken to the hospital, right? And based on that, they are advised that, okay, you've lost a lot of blood. We think you need blood transfusion. And this person is mentally aware, mentally cognizant, and tells you that, listen, because of my religion, I do not want to take the blood, right? Definitely, it's the security of their person and it's also their religion. They have the right to make the decisions concerning their bodily autonomy. So they can make that decision. But you see that it conflicts with the state's interest to keep it conflicts with the state's interest to keep all of its citizens alive, because you being alive, you contribute to the welfare and the well-being of the nation, right? So you see that conflict, and so that is what happens. And each case is decided on its own merit. I can't tell you that, generally speaking, if there is a conflict between someone's religious liberty in one case and the state's interest in another case, what you see happening is that the state's interest would trump that person's human rights. No, that's certainly not the case. And we saw that in two decisions that were issued recently, one being the Tyrone Magai versus the Achimota school decision, and also a previous decision, the Shraj and others versus the Ghana National Fire Service and the Attorney General, right? So every case is different. It is not set in stone. It is not true that in any time there's a conflict between your human rights and the state's interest, or your human rights and the human rights of another person, yours will prevail. It is a very individualistic, case-specific discussion that you have to undertake to determine that, okay, in this case of a conflict, this person's rights, based on all the information available, should prevail over this other person's rights.
Kofi, the reason
Always
why I'm
remember
asking,
that.
the reason why I'm asking this question is that if you look at Article 28.4, it's especially when the person is a child, it says that no child shall be deprived by any other person of medical treatment or education by reason of socio-economic benefits or only of religious or other beliefs. So, I mean, the purpose of that constitutional provision is that once the person is a child, regardless of your religious affiliation or belief, it doesn't really matter. You can't say that because of my religion, because of my certain beliefs, I'm not going to ascribe to a certain medication. Now, the question then comes back to say that, are we depriving the person of that human rights? Or this time on, because the person is a child, that's why the Constitution is giving out such provisions?
That's a very good question. And I take the position that Article 28, I take the position that Article 28.4 doesn't necessarily mean that in all situations that doesn't necessarily mean essentially what you're implying. My understanding of Article 28.4 is that it should be read together with all the provisions of the Constitution. Remember that the child also has a right to their religion, right? So even though the Constitution says this, right, the child is also guaranteed the right to their religion. The child is also guaranteed the right to the security of the person. So you still end up having a situation whereby there's a conflict between the child's religion and this particular state provision. And in that case, a balancing act has to be done, right? Because anytime there's a conflict, there needs to be a balancing. You have to balance to make sure that at least in certain scenarios, a child's right to religion, security, or protection of their body will triumph over this provision. In another instance, it will not, right? So I still maintain that it is not clear-cut, irrespective of this provision. It is not clear-cut that if you look at the Constitution, especially that whole section on rights and freedoms, if you look at it together as a whole, it is not clear-cut that in every instance that a child, especially their parents, the child through their parents asserts their freedom of religion not to undergo certain medical treatment, right? That the state interest will prevail under Article 28.4. Maybe I might have.
Let me hear your opinion on this. What do you think?
Well, I agree with what he said. I think that basically, at the end of the day, what the law looks at is the best interest of the child. Would the parents be able to say that because I belong to a religion that does not accept blood, for instance, if my child is dying, I have the right to say that my child has the right to her religion to refuse the blood transfusion, if that is going to kill that child. So I think that sometimes the law would look at what is the best interest of the child and not necessarily the fact that the child has a religion and can accept that religion against, the parent can accept that religion against the person. So, like he said, sometimes you weigh the situation and then look at what the circumstances is in the best interest of the child.
Now, I like your closing statement, the best interest of the child. We use your best interest of the child to delve straight into the Achimota issue. So we all know that I think somewhere in March last year, Tara Maguire went to Achimota school to be admitted and be part of the school's curriculum. But according to the rate that he filed during the school registration, he was sidelined. One reason being that, and the reason was that he was having dreadlocks, and because of that reason, the school cannot accept him to be part of the admissions for that particular year. There was judgment, which the High Court ruled that they are supposed to be part of the school, and any action by the school to restrict them admission constitutes an infringement on their fundamental human rights. Now, the school's position was also that they have rules, they have policies, they have regulations, and as part of their regulations, everyone in the school needs to keep short hair. And that was one of the main reasons why the guy's hairstyle does not conform to the school's rules. Now, Kofi, I know you've read that judgment in full. Can you take us through the legalities of that? What was the reasoning behind? What was the argument by both parties? What was the court's decision? What were some of the things that the court considered? To the layman, I want you to take it base by base.
I think you've done a very good exercise in terms of explaining what the decision, the facts of the case. So basically, sorry. So basically, Achimota has a rule. All boys should keep their hair low, cut simple and neat, right? That is the rule. So any boy or any boy in the school or anyone in the school has to abide by that rule. Now, Achimota's school's argument was that this is a rule which is neutral on its face. That means that the rule doesn't favor anybody. It applies to everybody, irrespective of your race, your color, your ethnic, your religion, wherever your religion is. It applies to you irrespective of that. It is a general rule. So the rule, Achimota's argument is that the rule does not discriminate, right? Now, for Tyrone Magai, the problem is that for him being a Rastafarian and being of the Rastafarian faith, one of the key requirements of his faith is that you have to manifest your religion, and the manifestation of the religion is for them to have the dreadlocks, right? And when you check the Constitution of Ghana protects the freedom of religion and the manifestation of that religion, right? It makes, and I think that is right, it makes no sense for you to say that somebody has a freedom of religion, but you prevent the person from manifesting that religion, or you prevent the person from living that religion out. It's like telling a Muslim that, okay, because a female Muslim, that because you're a Muslim, we agree that you have a right to be a Muslim, but we don't think you can wear the hijab, right? Because wearing the hijab is a manifestation of the Muslim faith for women, right? So essentially, that is what was at play, and the child's right to education as well. Now, the judge did a very good job. The judge considered the freedom of religion, talking about the fact that freedom of religion also guarantees your ability to manifest this religion. He also talked about the right to education, right? Now, Achimota raised the argument that the reason why their justification for enforcing this rule is that it ensures orderly management. Achimota and the Attorney General, they raised this argument that their justification for enforcing this rule is that it ensures orderly student order, discipline, and ensures effective management of the school. So the judge considered this, and the judge said, so in this case, definitely Tyrone Magai's freedom of religion and right to education have been engaged. So now we have to look at the rule that Achimota is implementing. Does this rule affect Tyrone Magai's freedom of religion and right to education? The court said, yes, it affects it. Now the question is there a justification for it, right? And the judge rightly said that if you look at it so far, Achimota School did not provide any evidence which shows that Tyrone Magai having dreadlocks will affect school order, will lead to indiscipline, and will prevent the school from being able to manage the affairs of the school. On the contrary, they didn't provide. That was the judge's decision. The judge says they didn't provide anything to that effect. It was just essentially mere assertions. And the judge rightly stated that even though Achimota has the right, all the schools have the right to make rules. Those rules have to conform to the Constitution, right? So for any school, and this doesn't only apply for schools, but for any job, for example, there are some banks I heard they have this compulsory prayer meeting every Monday morning where all staff are supposed to attend, right? Christian prayer meeting where all staff are supposed to attend. Now, the rule may be neutral on its surface that everybody should attend, but you do have people who are either Muslims or are either Buddhist or are Hare Krishna, belong to the Hare Krishna faith, or even atheists. So if you erect such a very general rule, right, and you are not able to provide any just reasonable justification for why you implemented that rule and why that rule should be allowed to override or trample upon other people's rights, right? Then definitely that is wrong. And that was what the court held in this case, in the Tyrone Magai case, that definitely Achimota showed a lot of, and there was a quote in the decision that I want to read for everybody. Everybody, and I will explain it. So the judge said this, and I thought the decision was a very good decision. Says religious intolerance is undemocratic. Any state that fails to tolerate the practice and manifestation of religion of its citizens and people within the state portends a serious anarchy in the state. Therefore, any attempt to project a rule or regulation to a character that expediently frowns upon the manifestation of a person's religion without reasonable ground must be frowned upon in our democracy. So the judge is saying is that, what the judge is basically saying is that religious intolerance is very, very key. The fact that your rule is neutral on the surface, in the implementation of your rule, you are trampling upon other people's rights. This is not right unless you have reasonable grounds. And you can't just state that, oh, it prevents, having this rule will ensure efficient management of our school without providing evidence to support that. And that is what Achimota School and the AG, I believe, failed to do in this case. And maybe I'll take a dig at the AG. I definitely do not understand why the AG, I agree with people who have expressed the opinion that I do not think it is every case that the AG should go to defend one part. I think in this case, the AG should have actually gone in and either be an objective amicus curiae friend of the court or actually supported Tyrone Magai's application, because there was no reasonable justification for it. And I don't know why they are also appealing it, because I think that they will lose their appeal if the Court of Appeal is to adhere to human rights principles and the Constitution in general.
Very, very, very detailed analysis. Amma, would you want to share an opinion on this before I go to Director Craig? Hello, Amma.
Any?
Yes. Would you want to share an opinion on the Harry Maguire case before I ask Craig's opinion as well?
Oh, let's take Craig's opinion.
Director Craig. Yes, so it's in your court now. This whole Achimota matter, you being a Rasta man or a person with a decorated hairstyle, what do you think about this whole case?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, I think when I listened to the first lawyer, he was talking about all the rights of religion and then the chance for you to be able to manifest it. So if you're being a Rastafarian, it's allowed because the religion actually, or the law makes it, makes the religion, they accept it that you can actually be in that form and then you can manifest it. If that is the case, then I feel like we should, or they should give us the chance to do this, because it's very heartbreaking for you to say the government said you should learn, now you are learning, you are able to pass and go to school. Now you get to the school, they are telling you because you have a hair on, so you can't be in the school. In that case, I feel like, really, excuse me to say, it doesn't make any sense. And it's not only in the school. even at workplaces, or sometimes when you go out, people see you and then tells you that because you're you're a bad person, or because you have this dreadlocks on, it means you're a thief or something. When you travel to other places, that is not how it is. So why is that our own is different? I hope you get what I'm trying to say.
Yes,
At the end of the day, it's not about your hair, it's about what you're projecting. So if the person is very brilliant and if the school, he's going to do very well and help the school and help the government, help the country as a whole, should you say because the person has the dreadlocks on, so it's not possible? I feel it's really not okay. Hello?
Yeah, Craig, we are listening.
Yeah, so in my opinion, in a nutshell, I feel like once the government has, paved way for this thing to be manifested in a sense that there is a law that we can use that to defend ourselves, because when it comes to religious wise, I feel like it is not fair for us to be treated anyhow. It's not fair for us to be treated anyhow.
So there are other schools of thought which also says that they are not denying you admission to the school. What they are saying is that they have certain rules, they have certain principles that governs the operation of their school. Ideally, even on human rights, some rights may be restricted for educational purposes for kids who are not above the age of 18. And some arguments were that keep a trimmed hair for the period of your stay in the school. After you are done with the 3 years, then you can keep your hair as you want it. That is an argument from some section of the community. There's also this socialist argument, which also says that culturally, these hairstyle is kind of unknown to our culture system, and laws are made for the society, must conform with the precept and concept of the society. And so the fact that they are not automatically denying you admission that don't come, they say come. But before you step in my school, you need to do A, B, C, D. I went to a seminary. I went to a college school where they have their own rules of engagement. People may think that it is way too discriminatory, but they tell you that you knew of these laws before you even bought the admission forms. And so that is also an argument. I'm not saying I'm subscribing to that, but that is an argument which is being channeled by a section of the society on this Magal case. Now, let me come to Amma. Amma, what do you think about that aspect of arguments which I've tabled before this platform, raised by other people in the society?
Okay, before I even go there, let me ask my opinion on the question that was given. Of course, because I'm coming from the AG's office, the position is that my arguments should be tailored towards a motion against against the decision that was made. But I think it was a welcoming decision. I think it was about time, that argument had gone to court for a ruling to be made on it. I have no problem with the appeal that is ongoing. I think it should go all the way to the Supreme Court, even if it means that the same decision is going to be given on it at the Apex Court. I mean, yes, let's go for it. Of course, you've made some comments about what concern and arguments have been raised against the decision. I mean, every school has their rule. I think one of the arguments that the respondents made were that Achimota school has its regulation, and that as a student coming into the school, you have to.
Please, not to cut you, but can you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
If you can speak directly to your speakers.
I didn't get what you said.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So yes. So I was saying that. So I was saying that the argument that is being made that it's not in our culture, for instance, for people to have it's something that is new. Locks is something that is new. I don't believe that locks is something that is new. I mean, is there a particular hairstyle that is common in our culture? I don't think so. If we want to go back to the whole culture and tradition argument, then we go all the way back when there were different hairstyles that our forefathers and our foremothers wore back in the day. It wasn't cut hair, it wasn't trimmed hair. It was what has been called interpreted hair, right? And so you cannot say that it's something that is not known to our culture, it's something that is new. I believe that society is progressing. We've moved beyond the the argument that, you know, let's keep it, let's maintain it the way that it has to be maintained. If you go to school, you're supposed to cut your hair, you can't wear locks. I mean, we've moved beyond that argument. I always say that would the person keeping the locks or the locked hair affect the academics in any way? I don't think so. The argument that was made about cutting hair was because you're supposed to look trim or you're supposed to look trim. I mean, you can still keep your locked hair and still look trim and still look kempt and not look unkempt. So I think that yes, I mean the school had its own rules and regulations. Um, was the fact that he kept locked hair violating the rules and regulations of the school, such that he couldn't be made a student because he refused to cut his hair? That's a far-fetched argument. I've also seen the argument being raised that if you allow a student to keep locks, it means that if someone wants to come to the school and wear traditional wear, then then that should also be allowed. That's stretching the argument. And if someone wants to wear traditional clothes to school, and the school refuses and he wants to go to court and the court should rule that he's allowed to. I mean, that is a fair argument. Nothing stops them from. But I believe that the whole lock argument, the whole fact that it's not known to our tradition. I mean, back in the days, the fetish priests and the fetish priestesses were wearing locked hairs. They were wearing their hairs, I mean, locked up, like we have it now. So it's not an unknown thing to our tradition. I don't think that argument flies, in my opinion.
Yeah, and to add, I really struggle on what, and I see there's some Achimota students on here. I've seen one of them. I really struggle to see who are lawyers. I must say, I really struggle to see how. I haven't seen the AG's appeal that was filed, but if they intend to raise the same arguments that they did in terms of it affecting other academic, my guys' academic work and discipline in the school, I really struggle how that will hold, especially considering that if going by the reports we saw on social media, if that is true, that Charon Magai is on the Achimota School's Brilliant Science and Maths quiz team. That really defeats the argument then about his dreadlocks affecting his academic exploits, because that has shown that for you to get on the Brilliant Science and Maths quiz team, I presume you need to show some high level of academic excellence. And I do believe that if that's the case and that story is true, then he did, right? So then that defeats the purpose of that. Secondly, too, he's been there for some time. What has the evidence been? Has the evidence been that it's affected school discipline, school order? No. If it did, we would have heard about it right now. But so far, we haven't heard anything about it. So I think that the argument raised by Achimota is really by Achimota and the AG is really untenable. I don't know why they even went to make that argument without having any evidence to support it. Secondly, the argument about it's being a culture. Culture is formed by people. It's dynamic. Culture always changes. The culture that existed in the 1700s, it's not the same culture that existed in the 1800s. Every society forms its culture. Back then in the day, the way we used to conduct our engagement right now, or our traditional marriage ceremony right now, is different from the way we conducted it several years ago. So it changes. Now to the legal issue of, well, you are aware of the rules already. And so when you're coming, you should abide by the rules. I think that is a very simplistic and very pedestrian argument. Any lawyer who makes that argument is really showing that they do not understand the workings of human rights or human rights principles and legislations. Human rights is very individualistic. Discrimination can occur either by you enacting or by you passing rules or policies which in and of themselves are very discriminatory, or you apply a neutral policy which fails to accommodate for the rights of other people. And is the second situation that we are seeing in the Magai case. They've applied a neutral rule. The fact that you are applying the fact that your rule is neutral doesn't mean that when it is applied, it will not have discriminatory effects, right? And so in this case, it is having discriminatory effects. You've been given the opportunity to justify your rule. You just made bare assertions. You haven't provided any shred of evidence to buttress or to back the argument you are saying. I think no court will, if somebody comes and tells me that don't do this because it will give you a disease, or don't drink this water because it will give you a sickness, and you do not tell me anything else or give me any evidence else, and you are just expecting me to go by a word of mouth, no lawyer or no judge will believe that, right? And I think that's what the Achimota and the AG did in this case, and they were not able to justify why the rule should be applied or why that rule should override Magai's religious freedoms in this case. So yeah, I think the decision was rightly decided. And I will really want to read the AG's appeal factum just to see the grounds of appeal that they are going by.
Okay, I think add something to my brother's own real quick before you finish reading yours. I felt like so you were making a statement that some schools will actually allow you to come to the school, but then cut the hair off, and then when you're done with school, you continue with it. I feel like if the law is actually there and you are allowed to, or it's allowed for you to have the hair on, then I feel we need to stay true to who we are in terms of the religion or cultural purposes. Because if you tell me I should hold on with my hair, come to the school, finish school before I continue, then actually it makes me feel like I'm not even real. I'm not being realistic to myself and to the people, because it will make me feel like one moment I was this and the next moment I was a different person altogether. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So I feel like in an essence where we are saying that the law is supporting the fact that you can manifest your religion because you have the hair on, I feel that's how it's supposed to be. And we shouldn't have a problem with that, because if that is the case, then we are not staying true to ourselves. Yeah.
Very good contribution from Director Craig. So we'll go for just a short commercial break. I know Enos Travel is online now. Enos Travel, before you come in, just a short break.
Enos Travels, yeah, cool.
So Enostra will take over and let us know your packages for the Lawyer's Diary.
All right, thank you very much, Lawyer Cyberma. And it's been a very exciting conversation. I've heard that of Dr. K and I've heard that of your panel. And I think I'm going bold, but I think I'll rather change to Rasta and go for the fake ones. Anyway, this program is sponsored by Enos Travels, as Lawyer rightly said. And Enos Travels have been in business, in operation for 5 years in Ghana now. Most of the operations were done abroad in Europe and in America. And then finally, in the year 2017, we brought Enos Travels to Ghana. What Enos Travels basically do is visa assistance and visa consultation. So when I say visa assistance, I mean that every other country that a Ghanaian passport requires you to get a visa to, Enos Travels is there to assist you, to let you know what documents you are supposed to present and how to get a visa to those countries. Now, Enos Travels have successfully organized trips to the United States, organized trips to Europe, trips to Asia, and through Africa as well. So you can see we are worldwide. Currently, Enos Travels have some packages that is going on. As you can see, we have a package from the 17th of November to the 24th of November, and it's a trip to Dubai through Kenya. So this trip actually includes your return ticket from Ghana to Kenya and then Kenya to Dubai, your 6 nights accommodation in Kenya and in Dubai as well, a tour in Kenya, a dinner in Kenya, and then in Dubai, we have the Dole Cruise, we go to the Desert Safari, we go to the World Water Park, we visit the tallest building in the world, which is the Burj Khalifa, and then a whole lot of other things to do. And then for our current clients that are going with us to Dubai, as you can see, the World Expo is happening in Dubai, and we have transfers to where the expo is happening. Actually, our hotel that we're going to stay in Dubai is very close to the expo place. So you have free transfers from the hotel to the expo. And then the expo actually is a place where you could meet and connect other people in your line of business. So people should actually take advantage of this trip that is happening from the
Hello, Dennis. Your line is breaking. So I think you've done your adverts. So go ahead with the program. All right, so Kofi, I think we should draw the curtain down. And Dennis, thank you very much. I think your line is breaking. So
of their time. This is gonna be in November. It's going. Hello.
yes, Dennis, your line was breaking. So I think we'll go ahead with the program. You can leave the details in the message section. And Kofi, let's round it up. What's the way forward on this human rights issue? Diversity, inclusion, what's the way forward?
Well, the one thing I'll say is that I'm really happy with the decisions that are coming from the courts recently. The one decision is the Shraj versus Ghana National Fire Service decision, where the fire service, they have a rule that if you're a female recruit, when you are recruited within your first 3 years, you shouldn't get pregnant. some others got pregnant, and others got pregnant, and they were dismissed. And when the issue went to court, the court held that rule or that regulation by the Ghana National Fire Service was discriminatory, and there was no justification for it. Again, in that decision, the National Fire Service, they were arguing that because of the physical training that the women have to go through, it is very dangerous to babies in the womb. So because of that, that's why they say women shouldn't get pregnant. And the court said that, okay, I understand that. But if women shouldn't get pregnant and they get pregnant, does that mean that you should sack them? Right? The court said that, well, you can let them take maternity leave, and then when they come back after giving birth to the baby, they can do the physical training and they can be okay and do it. And which made sense, right? Because it's not like there's a physical training that's only done once in 10 years. It's happening every year, every time, all the time, right? So it's good to see those decisions coming. And one thing I want to say is that this decision confirms the underlying theme of all these decisions is a confirmation that Ghana is a very diverse society. And what I mean by diverse society or diversity is that we are a country made up of different people. We have males, we have females. In our recent census, there were 400,000 or 500,000 more women than men. Those are facts, right? It is a fact that Ghana has women. It is a fact that Ghana has men. It is a fact that Ghana has Christians, Muslims, atheists, Buddhists, Hare Krishna. It's a fact that Ghana has persons with disability. It's a fact that Ghana has women who are disabled and are pregnant, right? These are facts. So diversity is a fact, right? And if we want to ensure that all of these people feel welcome in our society, then that is how we have to make sure that the policies, the principles, our actions, and everything we do are inclusive, right? They are inclusive to ensure that these people have the diverse population that we have an equal and equitable participation in our society. How will you feel if you go to a country and you are the minority in that country, and because you are in the minority, let's say because you are, a Christian, you find yourself in a place and you are being forced to wear a hijab? Will you be happy? No, you won't be happy, right? So in the same way, for example, you shouldn't force, let's say, a Muslim to attend a compulsory work prayer meeting, especially when your organization is not a Christian organization, right? So the message I want to leave with everybody is that definitely we have to show that we're a diverse population, and because diversity is a fact, inclusion is imperative. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Amma. Any closure comments before we invite the audience to make contributions?
Well, I think Kofi has said it. Just to say that I believe that as a country, we've come a long way when it comes to our human rights.
Hello, Amma, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I need to turn my video because my phone is clicking. So I'm saying that I think we've come a long way as a country when it comes to human rights, protection and promotion. We still have a long way to go, but yes, we are taking baby steps every step of the way. So we know we will get there. I like the fact that we have a high court that is dedicated to the protection of human rights. I think Justice Gifty AJ did a formidable work. She still is doing a formidable work with her decisions when it comes to human rights, and so is Justice Abudakri. So we hope that someday we'll get there, and we would all come to feel safe about our rights and the enjoyment of our rights in the country. So that's my take.
All right, Director Craig, any comments before we draw down on today's program?
Just a quick one before he comes. My phone is about to go off, so
okay.
at
Sure,
this
sure,
point.
sure.
So thank you
Thank
so
you very
much for
much.
having me on.
Thank you very much, Amma. Thanks for your time. Great. Any comment before I invite the public to also make their suggestions? I think Craig is also off, probably in a network or something. Now to all our viewers and then people who subscribe, do you have any questions that you may seek clarification from Kofi or myself? You can unmute yourself and then ask your question. Hello, Nana Kisi, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I
All
want
right,
to.
all right. Please go ahead.
Okay, so Council, thank you very much for your program and always getting legal brains to help us with some of the trending issues. I want a little bit of education, particular reference to Chapter 5 of the Constitution, particular reference to Article 14, Section 1, subsection E, which talks about restricting personal liberties for children or minors for the purpose of their education and welfare. I don't know how it sits in relation to what we've discussed so far. I'm a bit not too clear on it, so I want a bit of clarity on that. Thank you.
Okay, I think Kofi, we've already discussed that, but you can summarize it.
Okay, all right. So for those who Article 14 1B, right? Article 14 1B talks about the protection of personal liberty, and let me read it. It says, every person shall be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty except in the following cases and in accordance with procedure permitted by law. So 14 1B, I don't know if that's the provision he wanted to.
Sorry, no, I said 1E, E for Emmanuel.
Oh, okay, sorry. So protection of personal liberty for the purpose of education or welfare of a person who has not attained the age of 18. Right? Okay. So basically, that provision is talking about instances where personal liberty can be deprived, right? Where personal liberty can be deprived. And one of the grounds upon which personal liberty can be deprived is for the purpose of education or welfare of a person who has not attained the age of 18. So that means that if you're a person in Ghana and you're under 18 years of age, your personal liberty can be deprived for the purposes of education, right? Now, definitely then the question then becomes what specifically or what specific situations are they referring to over here? Because personal liberty talks about essentially personal freedom. If you want to be restricted, that what personal liberty talks about personal freedom. So he's saying that in this case, some personal freedoms can be restricted, right? For the purposes of educating a child under the age of 18 years. However, you have to remember that you do not read the constitutional provisions in vacuum. In the same place, in the same constitution, which talks about depriving a child under 18 years of their personal liberty for the purposes of the education, also guarantees that child the right to religion, the right to freedom of thought, freedom of expression, right? So it is still a balancing act. You have to read the Constitution as a whole. You have to read everything together. It's still a balancing act. The fact that this Constitution, this provision says that does not justify, for example, does not mean that any school which tries to restrict the personal liberty of a child is justified. No, you would have to go if the child thinks that this is not justified. The child or their parents can take it to court, and the school will have to show justification for their actions, right? So it's still the same analogy, it's still the same argument that the question then remains, are your actions justifiable? And when we say justifiable, just mere words saying that, okay, we are doing this to protect you. No, the court wants to see some form of evidence. Okay, show me how it protects you. It protects you, right? So that is what I want to say on that. And you should have at the back of your mind that don't read them in isolation alone, but remember that there are also other rights and other freedoms which are guaranteed, which are conflicting with this provision in itself, right? So you have to read both of them together. Okay.
Okay. Any other person who would want to make a suggestion or need any clarification? All right. Okay, so in the absence of any questions, clarifications, or suggestions, Kofi, thank you very much for your time. I mean, today's discussion has been very insightful, and I personally have learned a lot from it. I know that very soon I'll be coming back to you on human rights related issues. Boss Kisiedu, please, do you have any question or suggestions?
Not at the moment.
Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. All right, so Kofi, thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you very soon. I'm sure you'll be coming to Ghana for Christmas holidays.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, so thank you. See you next 2 weeks on another engaging topic for discussion. Thank you, and we are grateful. Bye.